Morning guys. Okay, so going to work on a few simple videos. As you can see, got my 2019 Sherco 300 here. Over there we got another one. So yeah, we're going to go through a couple things. Got my appy right there, busy fixing and tightening as we go along. But yeah, this is going to be just some simple videos, help you out with some simple things that everybody should know, and if they don't know, going to help them out. So hello boy. Okay guys, to start off here, we will look at brakes and clutch, doing your fluids, okay, front brake, back brake, and your clutch, replacing the fluids in there, getting them nice and clean, so obviously your brakes and your clutch can work to its best performance. Very simple, very easy, only need a couple tools. We're going to take you through that now. To start off with, we're going to look at the tools that we need to perform the job here. Okay, rear brake, it's going to take a 21, most bikes. This is a Brembo rear brake. Your 21 is going to be to fit the top right there. Okay, 8mm, very important. That's going to be to crack the nipple to get the oil back out, and that's going to be all three: your brake, front and back, and your clutch. Okay, you're going to need some sort of a Torx to get to your reservoirs. Okay, on the Sherco we got Torx. On most of the other models you're going to use something like that, Phillips or a star screwdriver. We've got some brake fluid, .4 what we're using. Okay, brake fluid in the obviously your front and back brakes and the clutch. Okay, next thing, got a little homemade device here. Very simple. You can take a plastic bottle, put a pipe on it, burn through a hole. Okay, what that's going to do is you're going to squish it over that nipple there, so when you crack this you're going to be able to see the fluid coming through. In the bottom of the bottle you're going to be able to see the color, and that's going to help you to know when you've sufficiently taken, you know, the bad oil out and got the good stuff through. Okay guys, step one, going to remove the little rubber cap. Take your 8mm, you're going to put it on, then pipe over into your bottle. Okay, we're going to come around to the top. I've already loosened my cap. Okay, cap loosened. You're going to get that guy off. Okay, set your diaphragm down. Now obviously my brake fluid's actually not too bad, but for the sake of the video we're doing it anyway. Note that also after some time this brake fluid's going to go darker and darker and darker if it's old, and as opposed to going black when it's been burnt. So yeah, what we're going to do first, we're going to fill up the reservoir. Okay, don't worry about filling it up too much, obviously. Get to the top, we're going to fill that up, we're going to crack the bottom, and what we're going to do is we're going to use a gravity feed method. Okay, so we filled up our reservoir here. As I say, we're going to use a gravity feed method. There are a few methods to use. You can use the gravity feed like we're going to do, or you can use a reverse bleed. This I feel is a lot more simple and easier to do with things that you have lying around at home. Okay, so we're going to have this side full, we're going to come around to the brake itself, and we're just going to crack that nipple. Okay, straight away you're going to see some fluid starting to come through. Okay, now what you need to do is get back to your reservoir and make sure that your reservoir does not run out of fluid. Okay, it's very important because that will create air gaps. Okay, now all you're going to do using the gravity feed is you're just going to let it feed through. I usually let it feed through 2 or 3 of these reservoirs, roughly about my third reservoir here. Again, remember not to let the reservoir completely run dry. You do not want to let any air through into the system. Okay, something else to note, just let me fill that up again quickly. Something else to note here is you should not need to use the lever. Okay, this is a gravity feed. You do not need to pull your lever back and once forward. You put your cap back in, you can see the diaphragm is going to displace some of the fluid that's in there. Not the worst thing. You see here there's a couple little cutouts there. Okay, so if you have too much fluid in here, when you screw the cap and the diaphragm back down, in those little 2 cutouts there at the top that you can see, that is going to displace fluid and let it come out if it's too full. Okay, so what we do is we obviously have a cloth in our hand. When we tighten them down, I usually just put a cloth around as best I can to catch some of that fluid. Okay guys, we're onto the clutch. As you can see, my clutch fluid is actually a little bit dirty, so I have burnt it slightly. Okay, the exact same process we did with the front brake, we're going to follow with the clutch. Exact same, we're going to gravity feed. Here's your nipple, we've already got our setup going into our little homemade story here. Okay, exact same process. Crack the bottom, keep feeding the top, go through 2 or 3 of these bowls or the reservoirs, make sure the fluid that's coming out turns from dark to nice and clear, and then you know your full line. So now we onto the rear brake here. It's a little bit different from the clutch and your brakes at the top, whereas this doesn't gravity feed as well, even though the back brake is essentially above the caliper. It doesn't like to gravity feed. So this one we're going to do is top up the reservoir all the way to the top. Okay, take a cloth because this gets a little bit sharp, and for this one we're going to create pressure, hold pressure, release, keeping the pressure down on the brake and closing again. Okay, every time you do that you're going to see your fluid drop slightly. Create pressure, hold, release, holding pressure. Okay, so we're done with our back brakes. One thing to note, if you go look inside there, you've got a little line. That's going to be where to fill your fluid to. You need to fill it up a little bit. This one needs to fill up a little bit more. If you overfill, the same thing's going to happen as the top. It's just going to simply come. Okay, that's it. Front brakes are done. You can feel they're nice and tight. I'm a person who likes my brakes to be right there. As I want to touch them, I want them to bind. Okay, reasons for doing this: if your front brakes are very spongy and like to come all the way back to the grips, this is going to help with that if you get a good bleed through. And obviously if you burn your brakes, guys, anytime that you're riding and you burn your brakes, you're on a very technical ride, lots of downhills, and at some point of the ride you completely lose your brakes and they come back once they've cooled down. You have burnt that oil. Once this oil has been burnt, it loses its viscosity and you will no longer have sufficient braking. Yes, it will brake again, but it will then boil quicker and quicker each time. That is why we got to do these things. Now here's where you need to be careful. Some model bikes, particularly some of the older KTMs, your 200s and the Husqvarnas, they have a Magura clutch, and the older Magura clutches are going to call for a mineral oil, okay, not a synthetic. So that is specific. You need to have a mineral oil in your clutch. Some of the newer models are still going to call for a .4, okay. You're going to find some information up top here, and it's going to tell you what to put in your bike. Alright, another thing to consider: if you are currently running a 5.1 instead of a 4, do not mix 5.1 and 4. Rather keep or stick to what you're doing. And if you want to move yourself to a 5.1, make sure you completely clean out your 0.4 before you do that. You don't want to mix the two. Guys, there you have it. Nice and easy. And the whole job should take you 10-15 minutes to do all three. As long as you set yourself up, have the tools ready, have the stuff ready, and give it a bash. Once you're done, obviously make sure your brakes have good pressure and your clutch, just make sure she's working, and that's it.